we are working, I decided I needed to create something to show you some of the techniques. So this was my practice for my demo, and it's going to be my attempt to reproduce it again. I'll tell you, with alcohol ink, you never reproduce it again. You just come maybe close to, you have kind of a plan and you see what's going to happen. This was supposed to be a dahlia when I started out, and now I think it's a poinsettia. That's the other thing about alcohol ink. It may not be what you think it's going to be when you finish up. This one over here, I started out with, I like this color, this turquoise. I started out with big blobs of turquoise, and I ended up, I'm not going to put it down, well, if we get these bad reflections, we'll try this. There we go. And I ended up deciding these look like flowers. Now, I'll tell you right off, with alcohol ink, everything first looks like a flower. So you're going to do a lot of flowers before you figure out what you really want to do. And then I just decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and add some other stuff. I used my my alcohol brushes to create some lines. I did some lifting out. We'll be talking about all of that. So that I used, darkened up some spots, and I ended up with something that I thought looked reasonable for a fast one. Then I decided I wanted to do a palm tree. This one's a little more controlled. You can see, can everybody see that? I decided I wanted to try to control it enough to create something that would be recognizable as a palm tree. Again, that's some of the challenge with alcohol ink, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. Yeah. And then on this last one, this one over here, I decided I wanted to create something that kind of looked like a forest. So that's this one. And we're going to talk some, can they see it? Okay. I can't see it. Could we switch? There we go. I used some tape and some other kinds of things to create some lines, and some acrylic brushes, which we're going to talk about, to create something that I think looks like a kind of abstract forest. So, my goal now that alcohol ink is acceptable in shows, is to learn how to control it in a way that I produce something I'm willing to submit. And, that's going to take a little time, but I'm pretty pleased with where we're going. So what I'm talking to you about today is having fun with this stuff. It's great therapy, even if you don't do anything with it in a show. I can tell you, if you sell your work, people love it. They'll snap these things up in a skinny minute. They really like them because they're kind of bright and abstract, and it's whatever you think it is, whatever you see in it, and they like that. By the way, this is my assistant, Janice Johnson. She's my sister. She did not intend to be my assistant. So I've promised her dinner tonight. That's right. That's what she calls herself. Okay, so how do we do this? The question is, can alcohol ink go under glass and can you varnish them? Yes, both. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. This is under glass right here. This little one is varnished. So I'll be talking about how you mount it and what you want to do with it. You have to seal it. We'll talk about that too. So what is alcohol ink and where do you get it? Well, I use two primarily because they're made in America. I like to kind of keep my dollars here in the U.S. But that's that's up to you. Ranger, Tim Holt, Adirondacks, probably the best known in the U.S., most readily accessible, and Pinata, which is newer. These are both U.S.-made alcohol inks. There are lots of alcohol inks. A lot of them are made overseas, especially in India and China, and you have to decide. I'm sometimes a little uncomfortable about what might be in there that I didn't really want to have in there. And I like to keep them in a little case where I can carry them around really easily.
Where'd you get those cases?
These little cases you can get. These are Tim Holtz Ranger cases. Oop, I can't do it that way. These are Tim Holtz Ranger cases, but they fit all alcohol ink, 1/4 ounce alcohol inks. They cost about $8, and there's a base that will hold your alcohol inks, so when you're traveling, they aren't going to tilt over and spill, unless you turn it sideways. And then, because I have a labeler and often don't know what to do with it, I have labels on them saying, this is Ranger, this is Pinata. So when I'm looking for a particular one, I'll know which case to look in. Well, if you could do this, and if the lids were loose, they would run out. But yeah, they're not going to fall over in this case. So if I'm putting them in my basket to travel, I don't have to worry about these things falling over and spilling. So today I'm going to be using 4 Rangers, and sometimes you'll go online and it'll say Ranger alcohol ink, or Tim Holtz alcohol ink, or Adirondack alcohol ink. Ranger's the manufacturer. Tim Holtz is the guy who kind of, is in charge of this, and Adirondack is his brand name. They're all the same thing. The only thing I'll tell you about them is they put them in packs of 3 sometimes and give them really bizarre names. So you're looking online and you don't know if you want picnic or not, because what colors are picnic? So you have to kind of look around at the colors. You can buy a complete set. This is a set of 24, and then with the addition of metallic inks, and I'll talk about this a little bit. I don't use most of these colors. I have some favorites, just like watercolor. We all have 5,000 tubes of paint, and we only use 6. So that's kind of how this is too. You develop some favorites, and those are the ones that you use a lot. The other thing is deciding which colors you like. Pinatas are really vibrant. Tim Holtz's, there are lots of them, so you have lots of choices. And on the metallics, the pinatas are really, really shiny, which is really good. The Tim Holtz, they're a little duller. They don't dry quite as fast. They don't move quite as fast. So I like these. This poinsettia dahlia thing. This is brass. This is pinata brass right in the center. And you see how shiny it is. It really dries nicely. Okay, so we've talked about paint. Got to put your paint on something. I'm putting it on Yupo. It will go on any non-porous any non-porous paper, even the back of photo paper. If you have a pile of photo paper around your house and you're not sure what to do with it, you can use the back, not the front. Not the front. It's designed to keep ink from moving so that your photograph doesn't slide off the paper. You don't want that to happen with your alcohol ink. You want it to move. So use the back. This is Yupo. It's made by Legion. There are other papers. It's a plastic-based paper. I keep holding it up to you guys, and I forget that we've got a whole audience out there that needs to see this. I apologize to the viewing audience. This is Yupo. Yupo is a Y-U-P-O, Yupo. Yeah. Now, you can put alcohol ink on anything that is non-porous. Glass, tile, stone, plastic, anything. Anything that is non-porous, you can use. Metal. Yes, there's a question over here.
What happens if you put it on a porous watercolor paper?
It soaks in and won't move.
Okay, but it's not horrible.
It's not horrible if you like that, but
Okay.
why waste your alcohol
Yes,
ink when you
yeah,
could use something else? Yeah, you could use other kind of ink. The question for the recording audience was, what happens if you put it on watercolor paper and it just soaks right in? And there's no movement. There's no point in putting any alcohol on it. It's not going anywhere.
Can you treat the paper if you wanted to with
I don't know. I haven't. You could try treating it with gesso, but gesso's still porous, so it'll still soak in. If you really want it to be alcohol ink, use a non-porous surface. And again, that's anything. That's glass. Now you're going to have to seal it somewhere along the way, and we'll talk about that. But you can do glasses with it. Christmas ornaments. Is Lee in here? Did she turn up? We have a woman in here who does beautiful. There she is. Yes. Yeah, she does gorgeous Christmas ornaments, glass Christmas ornaments with alcohol ink. Really beautiful. So, don't limit yourself to a piece of paper. She showed me hers yesterday, and she ought to be doing this workshop because they are beautiful. Okay, so here's my piece of paper. I've got my alcohol ink. I've got my paper. I need a tool. In watercolor, we have brushes, right? In alcohol ink, we want tools that are going to move air. Oh. We need tools. Our tools are alcohol, and right now I've got, here's the alcohol and air. And I'm going to show you how that works. Or gravity. We use gravity too. What kind of alcohol? I'm going to tell you, thank you for asking that question. What? That's right. What kind of alcohol? You have to use 99% isopropyl alcohol. 91 will work. 99 works the best. It's technical grade. 91 will work. If you can get 91 in your drugstore, then feel free to do that. I generally have to order 99 online to get affordable 99% alcohol. 71% rubbing alcohol will not, it'll work, but not really the way you want it to. So I order a big thing of it online. It costs about $8 for a huge container, and then I put it into my smaller bottle so I can travel with it. And then I don't use that bottle to move around my alcohol. I use these little tiny bottles like this. I just take my little squeezy thing, get the alcohol out, put it in these little bottles, and then I use them with my alcohol. And then I don't end up with a lot of alcohol that's going to evaporate or drain out when I'm trying to travel. These little bottles are get about 50 for a very minimal amount of money. I use them for everything. You can put masking fluid in here and draw a little line. You can put paint in here if you want to draw a nice paint line, because it's going to make a very small line. And they're so inexpensive that if you feel like you want to throw it out at the end of that time,
What do they cool
little tiny bottles. The question is, the question is, what are they called? I call them little tiny bottles I found on Amazon.
Boiler.
Pardon?
Boiler.
Oiler broiler. Okay.
Okay.
But if you're Googling on Amazon, just say little bottles.
Little tiny plastic bottles. Little needle nose bottles. They work. Yeah, about maybe 1.5 ounces or so. They're small. Yeah, you can get them at Michael's, any craft store, because you can put all kinds of things in here. Glue. I mean, it doesn't. This is a little cheap bottle that you can put all kinds of things in and not feel terribly bad if you end up throwing it away. Like for me, I'll put masking fluid in it, not use all of it, and then the masking fluid dries. So just have to throw the bottle away. You know, I bought those really expensive masking fluid pens, and they clog up almost immediately. So these little cheapo things work great. Okay, so I need my alcohol, and we're going to do some techniques with spray. So I have a fine mist sprayer, and I have a regular sprayer. This sprays with a wider range. This is a fine mist sprayer, and I encourage you to put on your bottle alcohol, because I have one just like it that says water, and you do not want to pick it up and spray yourself accidentally in the face with the alcohol. I've already warned these people they might be in danger here on the front row. So you want to make sure that you are pointing in the right direction before you spray the alcohol. There's also something that all of the places will advertise, especially Tim Holtz, because he makes it, alcohol blending solution. It slows down the alcohol and the alcohol ink, the quickness at which it dries, and it allows you to blend a little bit. I think that it's got it. Can you guys see it up there on the screens? I keep feeling like I need to hold it up and show it to you. And I can't see you people over there, so you could be doing anything. Okay, good. Pardon? It slows down, alcohol blending solution slows down the drying of the alcohol. Alcohol ink dries very, very fast, and alcohol dries very, very fast. So it kind of slows it down, and it allows you to blend it just a little bit more, especially if you're using these little brushes. These are alcohol ink brushes. They come apart.
I have some of them.
You put the alcohol into the tube. You close it back up. You close it back up correctly. You have to turn it the right direction. And then now you have a brush tip, and when you squeeze it, you will get alcohol in the brush, and now you can move your alcohol ink with the brush and control it a lot more successfully. So after you get your basic design, let's say you want to go back and put some stems into your flower, or you want to move something that just doesn't look right. You want to smooth it out. You're going to use your brush to do this. These are Pixis. When you order Pinata, they'll throw in a Pixis brush for free. I don't know why. Maybe they're owned by the same company. Pixis there are alcohol inks made by Pixis, but they're not made in the U.S., so they're made in Europe. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I'd be comfortable using them. Like I said, I just like to keep my money. I like to keep my money in the U.S. if we can.
What are the name of those brushes?
These are Pixis. The name of the brushes are Pixis. You can put anything in here. It doesn't have to just be alcohol. You could use them with water if you were painting with your watercolor. You can, if you put acrylic in here, it's going to gum it up. You don't want to do that. But you can use them in a variety of ways. Okay, in a minute we're going to start painting, but I've got to show you the air movement tools. I'm going to show you the tools from least expensive. I did not bring my most expensive, but I'll tell you about it. Least expensive, straw, and it is my favorite. This is the least expensive and most effective tool you will find for moving alcohol ink. No manufacturer is going to tell you that, except maybe a straw manufacturer, but no alcohol ink people are going to tell you that because they want you to buy the other tools. Get the ones that bend because you're going to control your ink this way. A straight straw is harder to control. So I have a little pack of 40 flexible straws here that I bought at the grocery store for, I don't know what, $1. Now, if you go onto the Tim Holt site, he will tell you you have to have this tool. You have to have this air movement tool. So, being a novice at it, I thought, well, if I have to have it, by golly, I'm going to have it. It squeezes air out. It doesn't squeeze it in a controlled manner. It's a little tough to squeeze. I don't use it. The only reason you would want this is if you're doing a really big sheet and you want to push the air that way, but I will tell you there are better ways to push it on a really big sheet. On a really big sheet, use your hair dryer. Once you turn it on, it's going to push, and I'll show you that today. It's going to push your alcohol ink for you, not in a controlled way. It's going to push it, but not in a controlled way. That's why I like the straw. One second. And that's why the most expensive tool that I didn't bring with me is an airbrush. You can do an airbrush and control the air very much. Airbrushes are expensive. When you go online and you look at some of the airbrush prices, and it looks like it's $29.99, all you're really buying is the basic brush. You still have to buy the compressor. So I've got a little mini travel compressor that connects to my airbrush. I didn't bring it because we already have so much stuff plugged in up here. I figured you probably, and I wasn't going to use it today. You have a question?
Well, now that you brought, that was a question, but the Amino, or whatever the name is, that's like the best airbrush, and you can get it in Hobby Lobby with the little compressor for about $199.
Yeah, $199. So what she's saying is the best little airbrush. But $199 is a lot for an experimental activity. If you're just starting this, do not invest your money in an airbrush. If you already have one, use it. If you really get invested in this, then that may be something that you just use the air. You don't put the paint in. It's just an air function. But it's an expensive tool. And the question is, do I think an airbrush is worth it? I can't answer that. I would say for me, I use it, but if I have to choose between the airbrush and the straw, I'm going with the straw. Okay, so any other questions about equipment or tool before I start painting here?
What if you put 4 straws together and blow it?
She wants to know if I put 4 straws together and blow, what would happen. I don't know the answer to that. I will tell you that as you blow through this, you start hyperventilating. So I guess there is a possibility what would happen is that you pass out. I always tell my husband, if you come into the art room and I'm unconscious, it's probably not because I inhaled alcohol. It's probably because I was blowing through the straw and I passed out. So here's what I'm going to try to do. Like I said, this was supposed to be a dahlia when I started off, and it ended up being, I think it's a poinsettia. I mean, who knows? You decide what it is. And what I'm going to be doing are some of the techniques I talked about. I'm going to start with the center. I'm going to use the heat gun to dry it with no alcohol. Then I'm going to be adding other colors and alcohol. I'm going to be using my straw to move it around. We're going to be using some spray technique with the alcohol to create some of this more textured finish. I'm going to be using the little brush to move some things. And at that point, it'll probably be about 3 o'clock, and you guys can all go home. We're going to do as much as we can in the time that we have. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, the question is, have I tried canned air? Yes. It's expensive, it runs out really fast, it gets really cold in your hand and you have to sit it down and let it warm up. If you keep using it while it's really cold in your hand, it can explode. So, I mean, I tried that and it works, but I'm not thrilled with it, mainly because of the cost and you know, I just don't think I think there are other more affordable and usable options. Now, if you're on a really tiny piece of paper like this is a 5x7 piece of photo paper mounted on a cradle board. A canned air works just fine for that because you aren't using all that much of it, but so does a straw. So, you know, you have to decide. You know, the bottom line is, it's like everything we do. What works for you, and you may have to do some experimenting to figure out what that is. It's about 9:30, oh my God. Sorry about that. Let's get started.
What about working on canvas?
No, it doesn't work on canvas. Yeah, it's
Okay.
it
absorbs.
it absorbs. Anything that absorbs is not going to work. So I'm going to start with the center. You realize now you've made me paint this thing in a half an hour, which is probably okay. We can probably do it. So
We had the questions during the session.
yeah, that's right.
Question time.
Now we won't have question time at the end, probably. So I've got, it's not really a circle, but it doesn't really matter. There's no alcohol on there. I want it to dry without movement, so I'm going to use my air gun here. Heat gun. Be careful with the heat gun. You can melt your paper. So I'm just going to try to dry it. I've got a little more, I put a little too much ink down, so it's moving a little more than I want to. But it doesn't matter because this is the center. You see it's moving a little bit with the heat gun because I put down too much ink. So now I want to start building my color. Let's put this over here where we can kind of see it. I want to start building my color. So I'm going to take, this color is called Cranberry. It's Tim Holtz. It's a really dark color. I'm going to put drops around. These are going to be the start of my petals. So you can see I've just got some drops there. At this point, it looks more like an amoeba than it does a poinsettia, but it may be an amoeba when we're through. So, you know, we'll go with what we've got. And then I'm going to take my straw, my trusty straw. I'm going to put a drop of alcohol ink, and I'm going to blow it. I'm going to put a drop of alcohol ink, and I'm going to blow it. Drop. I'm sorry, this is alcohol. This is alcohol. Don't tape down your paper because you want to be able to move it. And you notice I've got it on a glass plate. It's easier to clean. You kind of want to just go around. We want to get some petals going here. So far it doesn't look like much of anything, but it's pretty, isn't it? I like the straw because you get all of the kind of random spiky movements. With other tools, you won't get that. You'll get a smoother look. And if I pass out before 10 o'clock, somebody's responsible for reviving me. Okay, I feel like I need another drop over here of my dark, so I'm going to put it right there. Don't put the lid on. That's the other thing. Don't put your lid on between each one. You'll end up letting your ink dry while you're opening it. Nope. The only reason, yes, subject dependent. The only reason I started with the center is because I knew it was going to be easier to do a flower than anything else. So I started with the center. With these, I started this palm tree. I started with the stalks, and then added the leaves. Okay, so now I don't want to add anything else at the moment until this is dry a little bit. So I'm going to take my and you see that it's not really moving because it's really already beginning to dry. I just want to get the rest of the wetness out of it. Why do I want to get the rest of the wetness out of it? Because I want to put another layer on top of it, and I want it to be dry when I do.
After it dries, can you paint acrylic over it?
Yes, after it dries, you can paint acrylic over it. So what will happen with acrylic is that you can still continue to move the alcohol ink, and the acrylic won't move. So it gives you, it gives you the opportunity to create some interesting effects. So I'm going to start a second layer with a lighter color. And I'm going to blow really hard. That's the nice thing about a straw. You can decide how hard you want to blow. Now see, if I don't put any alcohol down, it'll still move, but not as far.
So if you want to stop it from moving.
Don't use alcohol. Just, it won't move as far. Or dry it. Yes. And we'll do some of that too. You just put 2 drops down at the same time. In fact, I'll do that right now. Since it doesn't matter how this turns out, right? This is just practice.
It looks just the way it is.
I know, stop. Added that to
Have you ever used stamps?
Not with alcohol ink, I haven't, no. So I've got 2 different colors there. I'm putting down my alcohol, and now the more alcohol you put on an area that's already been painted, the lighter it's going to get underneath it. So you see it's beginning to lighten up. I've got 3 layers of paint there. Alcohol has gone in the same spot 3 times. So now I have a really light spot in here, which is usually pretty nice. So let's do that again. Let's come over here and put this color and the color I put the lid on after I told you guys not to do that. Yeah, that's right. Our alcohol, again, the nice thing about this is just a drop. You can decide how much you want to use. If I want it to go farther, I just come back in, put some more alcohol, and we go again. That's what's fun about alcohol ink. It almost doesn't matter what this is. It's just fun and pretty. And now that there are exhibition options, you can begin to incorporate it into all different kinds of multimedia activities, like acrylic. Because what I could do is create a whole alcohol ink background and then paint on top of it. Yeah. And as I was saying, and I'm not sure I said it loud enough for everyone to hear, once I put the acrylic on, I can go back and put more alcohol and move that alcohol, and the acrylic will not move. Those of you that looked at the cat painting that we advertised this demo with, the cat's eyes have a lot of acrylic on them, so they didn't move. I didn't want the eyes to go away. The eyes were the important part. So I put my acrylic down, and then I used the alcohol ink around it. Okay, so we've got something that's kind of looking like a flower here. Something, I don't know what it is, but it looks pretty. Let's put a little yellow on it just to Why not? Now, just like watercolor, if you put enough mess on it, that's what you end up with. You know, you can make things turn gray when you didn't really intend to. But it's a lot harder with alcohol ink than it is with watercolor. You see where I put it here, it's light. I'm blowing it out. It lightens up everything that's around it. Now, if I want to come out away from it and put a few more leaves out here, feel free. You can do whatever you want. It's your paper. It's your ink. Yes, it does. That's a good question. Let's find a dry spot. I think this spot over here. Well, let's dry it all. It'll be easy to find a dry spot. And because this is alcohol ink and you never know what you're going to get, at the moment, I actually like this one better than that one. So I might not when I'm through, but I do at the moment. So let's throw a few leaves in here. I mean, if it's a plant, it's got to have some leaves, right? Yeah. So let's just throw some green out there. Again, I put the lid on. Leave it off while you're working with it, but then put it on because it will evaporate. There's my alcohol. And there are my leaves appearing. And let's put alcohol on a dry spot to show what happens. This is dry right here. I'm going to put some alcohol on it, no paint. Again, every place you put the alcohol where you've already painted, it's going to be lighter. And some of the ways these alcohol inks diffuse into different colors is really amazing. Wipes off pretty easily with alcohol. That's why I'm yeah, you want to put it on a Kleenex and put the alcohol in there, or on a Q-tip if you're just trying to lift out a particular part. I need to repeat the question. The question was, can you remove it with the wet paper towel? No, but you can remove it with alcohol. Okay.
Do you ever take the color and put it in alcohol and then just put it like that?
She wants to know if I ever take the color, put it in alcohol, and put it like that. Yeah, this is a brush with blending fluid, alcohol ink, and alcohol that I was using. I used it on this palmetto over here to lighten up some of my branches, because once you start using the brush, you're going to be lifting out your other paint rather than putting it down. The bad thing about this is you can see it stains your brush. Now you can clean that out with alcohol. Once you dump it out, just put fresh alcohol in it and clean it up. The blending solution is really sticky, so you kind of have to get used to that. But if you want to slow down your drawing and you want some control, yeah, you can put color in your brush. I don't do it much. I prefer to just use the ink and the brush, but yeah, you can do it. And the nice thing about alcohol, you can pretty much do everything except use water on it. So let's go back over here and let's spread these leaves out. You know what? I think they need to go this way rather than that way. So let's do a little gentle movement. And then turn it back around and send it out. And then if I would keep doing that. I would go all the way around with my green, but then maybe there's some sky out there in the background somewhere, or maybe we just need some contrast colors. Let's slap a little blue up here in the corner. Let's put a fair amount of alcohol. Let's just dribble it on and see what happens. And then let's take our hair dryer. Let's try this. Who knows what's going to happen? It may be horrible. And the reason why it's nice to use glass is, you see I'm going to blow ink off of the paper, but then you just take a damp alcohol tissue and clean up your glass. Because, I mean, if I wanted to paint this and make it a painting, I could. Alcohol ink will stick to it, but it'll also come off with alcohol. Now, if I decide that's a little too sedate, that I really would prefer to have a little bit more movement, I'm going to put my alcohol in here, and I'm going to use my trusty straw. The farther away you are from it, the less movement there's going to be. And if I were going to finish this, I would be going all the way around with whatever color combinations I want, my blues, and it's really up to you. That, you know, whatever colors you're going to put in there that you really like. But I want to put enough down here that I can show you what happens if you use alcohol spray. So let's put some green down. I normally wouldn't do it quite that much at once, but we're short of time. Let's put blue in there. Little blue. Nice thing about alcohol, try to not hold it sideways and let it run out. It'll run right down the side of the bottle onto your hands. So try to either drop it or, like I was doing, just kind of dab in it so you're controlling what's going on the paper. Yeah, don't squeeze it unless you want a lot. Now I think I've got kind of an interesting little leaf going on there. I'm going to dry it and move it. Go ahead and move it off the edge of the paper. Not really, because not only do they, the question was, do the colors dry lighter? Not really. And not only that, when you seal it, you're going to bring them back up in terms of their vibrance. So I want this to not be, it's not dry yet. Let's dry it a little bit more. Pardon? Yes, I'm going to show you guys when we finish up how to use the paintbrush. Okay, so I want some variation in here. The alcohol brush, not paintbrush. The farther I am away, the less that's going to hit the paper, but everywhere it hits, it's going to lighten it back up. So you see what's happening there? Now, if you get real close, I'm going to make a mess on purpose. If you get real close, it just all runs together. Now, you got too much alcohol on the paper, and it's just going to all, and if you want it to all run together, that's great, but if you didn't, yeah. The thing about the hair dryer, people often like to make lines in their painting, and if you go back and forth making it dry, you can begin to produce different kinds of lines. Yes, is there a question?
Yeah. How light fast are alcohol inks?
They're ink, so they're going to be as light fast as the designation of the ink. I would say they're going to be less light fast than watercolor, but you are sealing them. Since the question has come up, you're going to seal them with UV resistant spray, which reduces the ability of the, it helps hold the color. And it's supposed to make things light fast, and I would say it probably makes it light fast to the extent that it makes anything light fast. Okay, this is Krylon UV resistant clear, and you buy it at Ace Hardware, any hardware store, buy it in craft stores. I have a couple of others that I like. I have one that's like a triple coat that puts a really shiny gloss on it. It's Kumar, triple coat gloss, I think. Varnish, triple coat varnish, yeah. But you want something like Krylon, and again, this is just, you buy it at the hardware store, or Michael's, because there are lots of craft opportunities. Any place that sells crafts is going to have something like this.
Make certain it's not alcohol-based.
Yeah, make sure it's not alcohol-based. It won't work if it's, well, it'll work. It just won't work the way you want it to. Okay, so you can see now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what do I have to, how much time do I have?
9:45.
Okay, so I need to speed this up. I would be looking at this and saying, what do I need to do to make this something I'm really happy with? And with this one, you see, I did the leaves all around. In fact, I'm going to take it out so you can see the whole thing. It's in a smaller, well, maybe I'm not going to take it out. It's, it's taped down. It's actually in a smaller mat, but I ran my leaves all the way down here. I did a lot of spraying over here on the side with my alcohol, a little bit bigger. So let's see if you see what happens when you spray it. It makes really interesting little speckles of alcohol. Yeah, it blends some of the colors. And then I could go back. This is, the green in here is in a comb brush, an alcohol comb brush. I could go in here with my alcohol and start spreading this out a little bit. I don't really want it to be green, which really doesn't matter. I haven't pulled enough green into it yet for it to matter. I can start playing with the brush. And the brushes come in all different kinds, rounds, and it's a little kit of,
Alcohol and the ink in it, right?
there's alcohol and ink in this. Normally, I just have alcohol or alcohol and blending solution. So you can see here, I'm now creating some lines. This has blending solution in it, yeah.
That's something else.
So let's say I'm making this a flower and I want there to be a flower line. Now I've got one. Let's put one here. And I've got a round, so if I wanted to do really nice detail in the center, if I wanted to lift out paint and make specks on the center, but instead of lifting out paint making specks on the center, I'm going to use Pinata Brass. Now in alcohol ink, you can order mixtures that are additives. They have metal added to them. They dry slower. I think the pinatas are the prettiest ones. I think they have the most vibrant color. Tim Holtz has a whole range of them. And if you're doing a big painting and you want some more subtle metallic color, they're good for that. But if you're just going for flash, which is what we're doing. Yes, I did shake it, but I'll shake it again to show people what you're listening for. You're listening for that little ball. We can hear that little ball in there. Yeah. And then I'm just going to put a little drop in my center here. More than a little drop. And the funny thing about the metallic is it almost looks like it's fuzzy. It's fizzling while it does it. So you can see right now it's not very bright, but look what's happening as it's beginning to dry. Can you see? Yeah. Yeah, zoom in a little bit. Oh, I could have done that, couldn't I? So you can see as it's beginning to dry, it's beginning to push into the paint and creating. And I haven't put any alcohol in there. I put it on top of the paint, and it's kind of eating into the paint that's there. Now, if I wanted to dissipate it some, then I would use my alcohol. But at this point, with the metallic, all I've done is put it on top of the existing paint.
Just say metallic.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is Pinata Brass. I just put a drop on. Trying to find, here we go. Pinata Brass. Brass is the best one. It's better than gold. You would think gold would be the one, but brass and copper are the two best. They make beautiful metallic. And as I had shown earlier, this has the brass on the trunk. So, yeah. And then when you spray it, you're going to let it dry. You're going to let it dry. Then you're going to take it out on your back porch so you don't kill your family. And you're going to spray it with this. You're going to seal it with this. And then you have to decide, what do I want to do with it? This is like I said, a piece of photo paper on a little cradle board. You could get these at Michael's for 10 for. This is cradled board, yeah. These are 5x7 cradle boards. You can buy them in all sizes. They come in packs. You can paint on them, put gesso on them, paint watercolor on them. You can't do acrylic ink on it because it's porous. You have got to do the paper on top of it. And then you glue it down. You put your glue. You turn your cradle board. You spray. You seal your piece. Put it on there. Glue it down. And this is why books are still useful. You turn it upside down, and you put a book on top of it to hold it down, to press out all of any air, anything that's loose, so that it's really sealed, and then you spray it again. It's good if you paint your board, if you want to paint it or spray it. I usually paint them ahead of time, and then I just, yeah. If you want to cut your own paper, yes. Right now I'm using Mod Podge. She asked what kind of glue. Mod Podge. I'm using Mod Podge because it's cheap. You can buy some really expensive glue. I don't think it works any better. So somebody was saying Mod Podge worked for them, and it was inexpensive at the craft store. So that's what I'm doing, Mod Podge. What's the difference between alcohol ink and acrylic? Acrylic ink. Oh, acrylic ink is made from acrylic paint, just like liquid watercolor is made from watercolor. This is a different dye composition. Would they work the same way? I don't know. I haven't tried alcohol ink, but it doesn't. Acrylic ink. What I will tell you is that I have used these things to supplement what's on my painting. These are Posca acrylic ink pens. These are, we've got to get back on the camera, yeah. These are Posca acrylic ink pens. Once this is dry and you use the acrylic on the alcohol ink painting, alcohol will not move the alcohol ink. That's the biggest difference between acrylic. This is Posca. These are pens. Posca pens, acrylic ink pens.
So the pen will not move the alcohol ink once it's dry?
The pen will not move the alcohol ink once it's dry, and alcohol will not move the acrylic once it's dry. So when you look at this painting right here, and I know the recording audience can't see it, all of these lines, once I decided these things were trees, all of those lines are the acrylic ink. And then I went back later and made some changes. Yes?
I have a question. When you made those trunks, did you use masking tape?
I did. With UPO, masking tape doesn't work so well. The alcohol will seep under it. The best thing to use is ordinary Scotch tape. It'll stick to the UPO paper and leave a nice line, and it doesn't leak under much.
And you don't take it off?
Oh, no, you take it off. After it's dry, you peel off and you can do all kinds of shapes that way, You just peel off the tape, and you've got a nice straight line. I have a bunch of masking tapes in different sizes, and now I just have to find Scotch tape in different sizes. So then that's not easy to do. That's the downside of using Scotch tape, because you got to use multiple pieces. If you want a wide trunk, you're going to use 3 pieces of Scotch tape rather than 1 piece of masking tape. But the masking tape, it wants to turn loose from the UPO paper. It works great on watercolor paper, but packing tape could probably work, because this surface is slick. It's not going to destroy the paper when you pull it off. You need something that won't destroy the paper, but that will also give you a clean line. You want to go back to the picture? Okay. Okay, question back here?
I'm sorry, I came in late. The paper that you are working on for this, is that for UPO?
The paper I am working on for this is UPO. Any non-porous surface will work. That ranges from glass to stone to ceramic to metal, any non-porous surface.
The small piece with the glossy photo paper?
This is a piece of 5x7 photo paper, paint on the back.
Okay.
The front will not take the alcoholic. So I just had a bunch of photo paper lying around, so I thought, give it a try. And it worked. Not all photo paper will work, but much of it will, as long as you use the back. Okay.
Thank you.
Last couple of questions. Yes.
What kind of alcohol markers do you like?
Alcohol markers I have not used very much, so I can't really recommend. Do you have one that's your favorite?
Actually like the Michael's brand, and I like even better the Flitch brand.
Okay.
Good sales on them.
Oh, yeah, they might want to check over in the trade show. Yeah, yeah,
Dollar marker and
Yeah.
set.
yeah.
And, you know, just use the double-ended one, you can go in the fine lines or.
Right. Now, these are fine line Posca markers that are acrylic, and just like you're gonna shake them up till you hear the little movement in there, and then you've got to get them started with your paper towel because you know they're just like any one. You have to push them in and get the ink in. But then once it's in there, you can just mark on your paper however you want. You can draw, you know, and that's not going to come off with alcohol. Now I'm not going to be happy with it, but this is nothing, so it doesn't matter, right? I just wipe it away with my finger, yeah. So, but these are really handy, and again, the alcohol won't move them. So you do this on your paper, you get it dry. Don't spray it. Don't spray this until you're totally finished, because once you spray it, it's now not. Once you put this on there, it's not going anywhere. You can't move it anymore. But until it's sprayed, you're pretty free to do whatever you want with your alcohol inks. So, yes, question?
So if you spray it, and then can you work more on top of it?
No, it's sealed. Once you spray it, it's sealed. So don't seal it until you're through. Yeah.
They could do acrylic or something on top of it.
I'm not sure how the acrylic would stick to this. Could you do acrylic on top of it? Okay. All right. Well, that's something I've learned. She's saying that once you spray it, you can still paint acrylic on top of it. So that's good to know. Next question. Any other questions? Well, thank you. This has been fun.